Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. Welcome back here to another update on this Monday, first day of the year, still out here in California, Monday, January 1st, 2024, 10:21 p.m. here, California time. 1.3 out here in the West Coast. Also got some movement out here on the East Coast with a 2.3 striking out here into the Maryland area, just north of the Washington, D.C. area. 15 kilometers deep for this earthquake. Of course, looking at the map here, there is quite a few fault systems that run through here across the Appalachian Mountains. And a little bit of shaking does happen on occasion out here tonight. A little 2.3. Pretty deep. A little uncertain on if anybody felt it. Looks like, oh goodness, it actually looks like a few folks did report feeling this 2.3. There's all the did you feel it responses here. 31 looks to be the highest number here across only. I think I pronounced that correctly, hopefully, there for about 31 reports or so. All right, let's go ahead and back out, see what we got for all the activity across the globe right now. Of course, around Japan here, they've seen quite a bit of earthquake activity ramping up. Just about 24 hours or so ago, we've seen that 5.5 kicking up here. And a couple minutes later, literally about 3 minutes later, we've seen that 7.5 come in there. Created quite a bit of shaking out there going on last night, at least my time last night. It was a very shallow earthquake, about 10 kilometers deep or so, just off of this plate boundary. And the shallow earthquakes can no doubt be quite damaging there, really close to the surface. It did create a tsunami in the west coast area of Japan. It's a rather odd earthquake. I'm still a little astounded as to the magnitude of this earthquake here. It's specifically off the plate boundary. Normally, somewhat of these large earthquakes we'll see over here across the subduction zone. Specifically historical in this area, does not show anything even close to this magnitude of 7.5. They've all been the mid to upper sixes out here. So it's a rather odd deal. I was looking at the plate boundaries out here. This is the Japan area. The earthquake activity occurred roughly about here. Let me see if I can pull this map up here, show you guys a little bit better perspective of the Japan area. Of course, the subduction zone in the blue, right? These kind of looks like a cold front in a way. If you look on the weather maps, this is telling us that the subduction here is happening underneath this plate, the Pacific plate underneath this region here. But that area of interest where that 7.5 struck is right about here. Very small area, and it's just off of this plate boundary. It's continental oceanic convergent boundary here in the kind of the purple line. But that's a pretty good size earthquake there that kicked up. Again, it's, history tells us that there's earthquake activity out here, but nothing that large. So a little unusual way to start off the new year, I suppose, with a large earthquake. Not a whole lot going on here across the subduction zone. That's where we see the big earthquakes, including that 9-pointer back in 2011. Those earthquakes there can create much bigger tsunamis and, quite a bit of shaking that lasts for a long time. So far, total tally looks like about 37 earthquakes here, and that's going to be from the USGS 4.0 and above. Now, obviously, there's probably a lot more listed up here. These are actually all over the place here. There's who knows how many is in this list, but there is a lot showing up on the Earthquake 3D globe into the Japan region. But right now, the last earthquake here, 5.4 in the area, Aftershock. There's always that possibility, maybe of seeing some larger scale Aftershock activity as well following that main event. But I think as time goes on, that is a less likelihood chance of seeing that large Aftershock. But we'll continue to watch that area. Far as the rest of the map goes, did see a little bit of movement down here in the Indonesia Islands area. And also looks like some deeper activity here across the Banda Sea. But far as any adjustment going on up here, I haven't seen any migration of activity or unusual signs of earthquake activity following this this large-scale event there yesterday and throughout the day. No signs of it at all. Right now, it's just kind of absorbing and pretty much all eyes up here as far as the earthquake activity goes. I'm not seeing anything south, anything north, but we'll continue to watch that because ultimately, that large of an earthquake does put pressure, even though it's relieving pressure and stress out here in this region. It's ultimately adding some further strain in certain areas out here across the region. Really not seeing any signs of it yet, but we'll keep our eyes open, see if anything changes here in the coming days. Movement across the Java Trench here, minimal. Looks like it did have 4.5 earlier today. A little bit of activity coming in right now near the Himalayas, a 3.9 on the earthquake 3D globe here. Up north of Nepal area. 4.5 in the Myanmar region, and of course the Mediterranean area. Looks like a handful of earthquakes out here today. Nothing big though to report. The Atlantic Ocean is the extreme quiet zone right now in terms of anything of noteworthy value. Not seeing anything going on up here in Iceland. So let's just give a double check here of the Iceland area. I'm going to go over to the site and double check the earthquake activity. Only got about 21 earthquakes here in the last 12 hours. That means things are relatively stable and calm for the time being out here. Grindavik area of Iceland, only one earthquake here just outside the Hagafell region. But we'll continue to watch that. Things, can stay quiet for a period and then they can really ramp up. But for right now, things are pretty quiet. Far as the Icelandic Met Office update, doesn't look like there's anything out right now. So it's been a couple days since they put out a little update in terms of what's going on out there. Of course, if there's nothing new to report, they're probably holding off on any type of update here. All right, see what else we got across the area. Hawaii definitely been kicking up here slightly. In the last 24 hours, it looks like a little bit of scattered activity out here. One oddball earthquake way out off the west coast here, the Big Island, 2.7. A little strange one out there. Most of the activity we see here across the Big Island is going to be associated with the Pahala area down here, and of course Mauna Loa and Kilauea Volcano, where we've seen elevated elevated inflation activity out here in the last couple months. Let's go check that out real quick here and see what we have for the inflation data. When we checked it this morning, it was on the rise there at Kilauea Volcano. So we'll double check, see what's going on here. Things are always changing out here, so we got to be on the up and make sure we got the most recent information here. Looks like we're taking a turn for further inflation. This is the last 2 days there across the summit region of the Kilauea Volcano. And if we check out the last 30 days here, shows that we're still on the rise here, on the move in terms of further inflation. Obviously, further inflation means more buildup below, and a little uncertain as to when this is going to kick up. Just a matter of time, I feel. If we do see some fissure activity open up out there, we will obviously see earthquake activity on the ramp up, a lot of it. So right now things are pretty quiet though across the area. Their latest informational statement put out this morning shows that the Kilauea volcano is currently not erupting, and it talks about the same thing here at its the highest level of inflation since about the 2018 eruption. So, all things are leading up to another eruption. Obviously, it looks like that's going to be the case. The question is when, where, and how, right? Could be a little bit more spectacular type of event compared to the last couple eruptions confined to the Kilauea lava lake area up there at the summit region, filling up that area. Could see a little bit different this time. All right, Alaska area. Got a little bit of movement here in the last hour. Looks like a 3.6 near the Valdez area, about 19 kilometers deep or so. No unusual activity to take note of out there for now. Yellowstone, I'm kind of curious to see what these guys, the USGS, has to report tomorrow in terms of the multitude of quakes that has been kicking up there across the Yellowstone area. Last night, but basically this morning here, we've seen things really kick up here across the Yellowstone region. Now, these are not big earthquakes, but there's a lot of them in a short amount of time period. Let me bring up this map right here, Maple Creek. This isn't the epicenter area, but I wanted to show you guys the 7.5, just about the 24-hour period here for that 7.5 in Japan. That picked that up really nicely. A very shallow earthquake, so it showed up pretty nice across, fairly nice across many seismograph stations globally. It does look like, though, these are aftershocks here. Now, I'm not for sure if that's going to be the 5.5 just prior to that 7.5, but it looks like there was more earthquake activity on somewhat of the 5 to 6 range than what was being reported on the USGS side of things. Because normally 5-pointers won't show up here across the globe. But for some reason it is on this station. Maybe it's tuned, maybe amplified up a little bit more. I don't know, but these are some distant earthquakes there, and I'm assuming these are the ones from the Japan area, some of the aftershocks. But this is the main quake here at 7.5. Now, earthquake activity across the Yellowstone area here in this little period, a couple hours. Again, earlier this morning, 6 to 9:30 or so, we've seen an increasing period of earthquake activity. It is centered around, it looks like the Mary Lake area. We'll find out tomorrow when they go through and pinpoint the exact locations of these earthquakes and whatnot. But there's a lot, including a 3-pointer that struck in there. Some of these may be, 2 to 2.5. A lot of these are under that, including some of these smaller ones here. But there's probably a good 100 earthquakes or so in this little time span that kicked off there in Yellowstone earlier this morning. Now, not for sure what's going on with some of these stations over here. They are not. They didn't even pick up the 7-pointer, so I'm not for sure what's going on. Those are, I don't know. I don't control these. I'm not for sure their reasoning as why they squashed the data, but it's not even picking up. Who knows why? Say an asteroid hit the Earth, it probably wouldn't even pick that up. So these are way tuned down in terms of picking any seismic movement up, including a little west of them, Lake Butte. Not for sure what's going on, but the majority of these stations here that are properly tuned for reading local seismic activity and also strong motion there distantly, they look properly tuned, and it showed a lot of this earthquake activity here. Again, I think it's centered around, just looking at these graphs here, probably going to be somewhere around here is what I'm guessing. Mary Lake, Purple Mountain area for the epicenter. That would put it at the northern edge of the Yellowstone caldera, which is in this black line here. That's a pretty large supervolcano out there. And all this earthquake activity ramps up following that 7.5 there in Japan. Coincidence? I think not. I definitely think not. And I'm still getting a lot of questions here as to space weather uptick along with subsequent earthquake activity. I think yesterday or last night, depending on where you're at, is a prime example of how space weather activity affects the plates in general. There's a lot of articles put out by some high class Harvard students, or not students, but Harvard professors that talk about the relation between space weather activity, the effects on the ionosphere, the magnetosphere, and how sun activity can play a part in the movement of the plates, the potential triggering, so to speak, of earthquakes out here. So that's another one down in the book for space weather activity affecting the plate dynamics out here. Maybe that just a little, and there was a flaring activity. We didn't get hit with a CME. We got hit with a that X flare, right? It only takes about 7 to 8 minutes for the effects to hit the Earth and create a little bit of issues there, mainly on the sunlit side of the Earth. And obviously at the time, that was somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, but it was obviously daylight over here when this earthquake struck. So we're just kind of watching that. I've been keeping a little tally here of the relationship between space weather and earthquake activity. It's not set in stone, but man, is it looking more and more likely. I'm waiting for a large CME event to hit the Earth and see what the effects are. Most of the time, it's usually within about 24 hours or during the period of the CME impact. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, if you really think about it, though, the Earth, Sun, solar system, galaxy, everything's got their interconnection, so to speak. And I don't want to go way off tonight, but it's kind of crazy how it does affect things. We'll definitely cover that more this year in 2024. All right, so we got Yellowstone kicking up there following that 7.5. Smaller earthquake activity here across Mount St. Helens. Nothing big, just a couple small microquakes there. Got one earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area right here, 1.3 near Martinez. That is, let's see where that's off of. I think that's at the northern, well, close to the northern edge of the Concord Fault. A couple different fault systems here that run through the Bay Area. Definitely well overdue in terms of some larger movement. But right now, just a little small earthquake. The rest of California down here, not seeing anything major going on. Of course, this morning we did see a 4.1 shaking things up out here off the coast of Los Angeles. It was felt pretty broadly out here across the region. Did see some further movement up north as well near Ventura following that 4.1. So regionally, we were looking at some increased stress out here. It looks like that has kind of tapered off. I haven't really seen a whole lot of earthquake activity since this morning's update, but continue to keep an eye on things. 1.6 here in the last hour. This earthquake occurring, I think it's on one of these segments here of the Elsinore Fault there in Southern California. The San Andreas Fault continues to sleep for now. No signs of it waking up. Hopefully not. Let's see what else we got out here. Caribbean Plate. Typical movement out here, looks like in Puerto Rico. We're not seeing anything major ramping up. Over here across the Middle America Trench, a couple earthquakes into the southern region here just off the coast of Nicaragua and the El Salvador area, it looks like. One from this morning and one from just recent. South America area, pretty quiet, not showing too much up here on the board. A look at the earthquake 3D globe, though, shows some smaller earthquake activity in the 3 range, mostly there across the Chile area into the Peru-Chile Trench. Let's see what else we got. New Zealand, any adjustment going on down there? Looks like maybe a 3-pointer. Couple earthquakes up north in the Kermadec Trench. Let's double check that real quick and see what we got for GeoNet. And then we'll run into the space weather activity. 2.5 yesterday, 2.8 yesterday, 2.5 3 days ago. This is, I'm assuming, their yesterday, not my yesterday, right? Because they're, well, it's already the 2nd over there, so Tuesday. Let's see here. All magnitudes, basically the ones that, are unfelt, unnoticeable. Looks like a 3.9 Kermadec Trench area, pretty deep, 423 kilometers there into that subduction zone. Really not seeing anything major going on. Another earthquake there into the subduction zone, but as far as the North and South Island area, things look, according to their map, pretty quiet. Some smaller earthquake activity, but really no signs of any adjustment taking place down here right now. There's some of that earthquake activity, South Island area, it looks like. Some of those 2s kicking up here, just off the plate boundary, it looks like. All right, let's see what else. Anything else we got going on here across the map? A little bit of adjustment down here across the Philippine Trench. That's about the only noticeable uptick following all this movement here today. I kind of like to pay attention to what goes on following large events, because it's kind of like a domino effect. You move one piece of the puzzle, well, it affects the other piece of the puzzle somewhere nearby or potentially far away. Right now, really, the only area that I see that may show some signs is down here across the Philippines area. So we'll continue to watch that. All right, space weather activity. Let's see what we got here. Getting a little bit of a glancing blow here from the that X flare that kicked up here at my time yesterday, X 5.0, the largest solar flare this cycle, solar cycle 25. That did produce, looks like a couple more M flares. There it is on the chart since then, things have kind of calmed down a little bit, but that doesn't mean it's over. Definitely does not mean it's over by a long shot. We still have at least a 25% chance for an X flare probability. Proton event 25%. I did see that kick up here a couple hours ago. This is lit up mostly on the southern polar regions there due to a little proton event coming in. M flare 60% chance, 99% chance for a C flare. And that regional sunspot right here, making its presence known a little bit better here today on the magnetogram image, 3536, and a new developing sunspot up here. So this whole region, here's the most recent image, this whole region right here looks to be growing here in size. Obviously, it's making its second trip around the sun, well, so to speak, our second round visible side of the sun here, directly looking at the Earth. This is the source of that X 2.8 back in December. So this is the second time the sunspot has come around, and it's still very active. Source of our X 5.0 flare. But we do have a newer sunspot area up here that shows some dynamic growth. The rest of these sunspots here are pretty quiet. Not seeing a whole lot of activity out there. Let's see here. Okay, Missy Mimi's was just letting me know about that earthquake in Washington, D.C. But we got that covered right off the bat. That's going to be that, I guess there's, quite a few folks in a little panic out here around the Washington, D.C. area from feeling that earthquake. These earthquakes can kick up pretty much anywhere across the country, across the world. The U.S. hazard map here shows the general area where some damaging large earthquakes could take place. But, as we know, New Madrid zone, you got the South Carolina region. The area where that 2.3 struck right now is in a zone where they see earthquake activity. Not a whole lot of large potential, but they do get earthquake activity out here on occasion. So I don't think we'll see anything bigger, but just a 2.3. Sometimes we'll see some up in Ohio, a couple down in Tennessee. It definitely does kick up here on occasion across that area. All right, let me get back into, where was I? Aurora forecast here. So it looks like this is supposed to be tonight. Creation time says 1-2. So I'm guessing this is going to be for Tuesday night, right? Even though that says tonight's aurora forecast, tonight and tomorrow. But the creation time was created 1-2. So I'm pretty certain that this is for tomorrow. Let me double check here the solar ham site. See what we got going on. The forecast, detailed forecast over here shows between 6 and 1200 UTC time on the 2nd. And right now, the UTC time is the 2nd and 0644. So technically, we could see that. So that's basically for right now, tonight, that aurora forecast tonight, Monday night. At least right now, it's Monday night, my time. Early Tuesday morning across the eastern portion of the country, but not really expecting much, if anything. We're supposed to get just barely a glancing blow from that Xbox X flare. Goodness. But really not expecting much. And it doesn't look like anything's currently coming in. Maybe. It is lighting up slightly here across the region here. But again, with that time period, 0600 to 1200, that could put it early morning time period here. And it's daylight. It'll be daylight out here. But we'll continue to watch that and see if that kicks up or not. All right, let's get back here and see if anything else is going on here. That's about the only excitement. And again, we're lucky if we get any effects from that CME that kicked up here a couple days ago. It does show it up here. That we'll get just barely a nick of that CME. But then again, it could completely miss us. But that's their forecast right there. All right, Storm Prediction Center in terms of severe weather. That's about it. Nothing going on there across that board. Weather outlook here in the near future, for tomorrow, we got rain coming out here across the west coast, snow in the higher elevations of California, Oregon, and Washington. And Southern California going to get in on the precipitation as well. Looks like we got one more storm after that, another storm as we head into next weekend. And then the big pattern change, a big pattern flip out here. Got a lot of colder air coming down from the north. Look at these snowfall potentials out here. Some heavy-duty snow. We're talking about maybe even some snow down in the portions of Texas. So we'll watch this a little bit closer as we get towards that time period. Definitely that's definitely shaking things up out there with that little pattern flip. It seems like it keeping the west coast here a little bit drier, and that's not a good thing. I'm hoping that changes. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that as we head into the middle of November. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here, and a little bit tired. I didn't get too much sleep last night from the fireworks going off. Still, we even hearing some a little bit later, or a little bit earlier tonight as well. Yellowstone, a little spiky activity showing up. There's some earthquake activity in Japan still. The bigger earthquakes obviously will flatline that seismograph station. These are probably some smaller quakes. Probably seen some of the threes showing up there on that graph. So just stay safe out there, folks. A whole lot going on right now. What a way to start off the new year, right? With a huge X flare and a large earthquake and Yellowstone shaking. And what else? What else is on the agenda? I guess we'll find out, right? Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here tomorrow morning for sure. Have a good night and stay safe out there. Peace out.